Welcome to Unsafe Space, everyone. I'm your host, Carter Laren, and I'm joined, as usual, by the bad mamma jamma, Keri Smith. Keri, say hello.
Hello, Carter. This is an episode of Deprogrammed. We haven't done a Deprogrammed in a while, where we talk about my old ideology, SJW ideology, and all the different ways it manifests. The fun with ideology. That's what this program's about.
That sounds less exciting and fun than it is. But today we have, actually, am I using your, I don't even know if I'm using your real name, but I think I am. So I'm going to introduce you by your real name, and if you don't like it, we'll cut it out. We have Jennifer Richardson with us, she identifies as Lil Ragamuffin. She's a natural-born female who enjoys her stereotypical gender role as wife and mother. She took her love of sewing from a hobby to a kick-ass business, designing unique sewing patterns inspired by vintage styles. You can follow her on Instagram at Lil_Ragamuffin_. Or on Facebook, there's a Lil Ragamuffin group, and there's Ragamuffin patterns, and you can go to littleragamuffin.com. So, Jennifer, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. I didn't just out you, did I?
No, I mean, it's okay.
I did. I outed you. Well, we can start over.
So the thing is, we can talk about this later on too, but during the whole thing, there was a woman, and people were sending me screenshots from other subgroups, and she's like, I know where she lives, and so forth. And it was like this whole thing of, I'm going to tell everybody in her local community that she's a racist and this and all kinds of crazy stuff. So, I mean, I'm out there anyways, but most of my social media, except for in my group, and Keri's in my group, is my real name. But that's like, so I guess it really doesn't matter.
Well, that is terrifying because that's taking bullying. Yeah, beyond just online stuff. They're trying to like come after you in real life. But let's back up. What'd you say?
I said, I don't even know if that woman really lives in Vegas or she was just trying to be like, I have information, I'm important, you know?
Yeah,
well, now you've just outed yourself as being in Vegas. You know that, right?
Well, I put that on everything. My first pattern was a Vegas sundress, so
okay.
I have it. It's not secret, so it's okay.
Well, let's back up. So people who aren't familiar with what we're talking about, we kind of just jumped into it with people trying to out you and come after you in real life. Let's back up and talk about how you got in that predicament.
Why are we bothering to have this worrisome discussion about you being outed? Yes.
Yeah, so 3 months ago.
Sorry.
So 3 months ago, we did a video. It was called "How to Survive an SJW Outrage Mob," and in that video, we did 2 case studies, 2 recent examples of mobbing by people I call SJWs. I used to be one. People who subscribe to a certain belief system, and one of them was in the knitting world, and that particular one was we thought the person had chosen the wrong way to deal with it, which was to apologize to the mob. Her yarn company, she had a yarn line called Asylum Knits, and they said it was offensive to people with mental illness. And she apologized, and she did the bowing and scraping and kiss the ring, which we've talked in great detail about why we think that's the wrong response. But what I loved about discovering you, and we found you at the same time, was that here's a woman who's being attacked by the same mob, different issue. They go after different issues. And you dealt with it differently. So why don't we tell people a little bit about the pattern, the name of the pattern, and how did you experience, how did you find out there was even people coming for you?
Okay, so the name of the pattern is The Good Old Boy. It's a Western style men's shirt. There's like kids version, there's women's dress. I've got a whole collection called the Western Collection. So what happened was in November, I was celebrating my 2-year anniversary for my pattern company. And I was doing this huge giveaway, and each couple days I was doing different sales and giveaways. And during this specific time, I was promoting the Good Old Boy and the Western collection. So I'm in one of these, Facebook groups, and someone says, "Oh, that name, huh?" ? And then someone else says, "Yeah, sounds racist to me." And I said, I said, racist? What are you talking about? And then they're like, you can't tell. And it was this whole back and forth for a second. And I finally was like, hey, this sounds like newspeak. And I closed my laptop and put it away. About an hour later, I'm getting notifications on my phone. So I go back and it's just like huge. People are sending me private messages saying, oh, they took it into the free speech group, which is not a free speech group.
Is it an anti-free speech group?
It's sure. That's where they go to cackle with each other and come up with this stuff. And it was crazy. And at that point, I was like freaking out because I'm like, what the heck? They're going to try to ruin me now. So my husband's like, just put it away. Just don't even look at it. So that's what I did. And I woke up in the morning and I was just like sick to my stomach. All of my like testers and admins, and they were being attacked horribly and called the worst things. I don't know. So I was kind of being pressured to change the name.
When you say testers, you mean people who test your patterns and
yes,
pose?
Yes. So we do about 2 to 3 weeks after I develop the pattern and make it a workable pattern. We go into about 2 weeks or so worth of testing where I have volunteers. I don't pay these people. They willingly do this. They print my patterns because they're PDFs. Make sure everything prints right. They sew it. They model it if they choose to. I don't even require that, which is important for later when they talk about the guys on the cover. So yeah, testers. So they go around and they go on Facebook and they say, hey, check out the new pattern and it's great and here's pictures. So they promote it.
And so they were getting attacked too.
Yes. So I put an initial statement out that next morning because I was like freaking out, and I was like, hey, I never apologized for the name. It's I never did that. What I did was I apologized to my testers and to my admins who were going through the craziness. And I said that I would possibly think about changing the name because I didn't know what to do at that point. So I was thinking about maybe doing that. And as I was going through those steps, somebody was sending me screenshots from that free speech group. And they were saying, oh, look at her whole collection. She named the whole thing Western. Oh, that's a problem too. Oh, this is the problem. And I'm like, holy moly. Like, okay, so I openly tell you people I may change the name. I'm thinking about it, right? So lay off. Like, just leave my people alone. But that wasn't good enough. And at that point, I just realized, I was like, F you people, like, I'm done. Like, this is not happening. And then I took that one down and I put up the other one that you guys caught. And I said, not changing it.
So just a quick clarification here. Their beef with you was the name, Good Old Boy, and the name of the collection, Western, was like, that was what caused this frenzy, the name?
Apparently, yeah. I mean,
okay.
there's like drama, like women are the worst. And I'm just gonna say that because they're emotional, and like growing up, I didn't have very many girlfriends. They were cliquey, and they go through like so and so said, and this and that, and they all want to like attack. It's a horrible thing that women do to each other, and here we are trying to better women and be, I don't know what's the right word. I'm losing my words.
I don't know. Be supportive of each other.
Yeah, be supportive and lift each other up, and the women's movement and all these things, and and they're doing the complete opposite. They're tearing women down one by one, ruining individuals, and it's horrible.
You're reminded. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it reminds me of the, we've used this phrase before, but the mean girl phenomenon in high school.
Never saw that movie, but I know. Yeah.
I don't think you need
to. It's like a click. You don't need to see it. Yeah, we all went through that. Yeah, we all knew the clicks of there's something about, I think men and women can be equally toxic in their behaviors, in their interpersonal behaviors. It's just that the way that the toxicity manifests in women tends to be more of this, women are higher on average in neuroticism, right? And women are higher in average in compassion, openness, like
Agreeableness.
agreeableness. That's the word I'm looking for, Carter.
Right.
One of the big five, which is biologically makes sense because we're built for taking care of young or not adults, but young children and helping them grow into adulthood. But sometimes that can, if it goes off course, like all those things that are built for good reason can be employed for bad reason. And you can see women, it's almost like a lot of these women who form these little mobs and go after people, some of them, I think, really believe that they're protecting some kind of stand-in for for people who need protecting. It's always like, we're here to protect for the marginalized people. We're here to stand up for, and they're sort of promoting themselves as this mama bear figure for people who aren't even asking for their help.
Well, having someone to protect is the excuse that women need in order to be mean and vicious. So like guys toxicity tends to just be like, we can be aggressive without having a reason, right? But women tend to like need a justification and like, oh, well, if it's for the kids, then now I'm allowed to be an absolute monster.
Right.
So,
like guys, I think men are more like, they'll have the blow up, the fight or whatever, and then they get over it and it's done. It's
you go out to a beer after you have a fist fight, and then you go drink a beer together, and it's done.
Yeah. The women are different though. They'll just keep it going, and they go like the long game. They want to tear you down. They want to bring you to your knees, which is what I guess I experienced. I didn't get that far. They didn't get that far, but.
You reminded me of something. I remember reading. Hold on, I remember reading about this. It was an interesting phenomenon. It was about women trying to rise in the workplace, and one of the interesting things was that a lot of women were saying that the biggest barriers, the people that were trying to keep them down the most, were actually not the men. It was other women who were vicious about letting them rise through the ranks. It was women who were like, their superior women were really, really, vicious about trying to stop them, which I always found very fascinating, especially since the narrative is like, it's the patriarchy that's stopping you. Sometimes other women aren't your best friends.
Yes, that alpha female. Every woman wants to be the cutest in the room, or the this or that, or they want to be the one with the attention. And if someone else is getting that attention, that's where you get that mean girl thing going on.
Yeah.
Or they want to be in the mean girl clique and have that,
And we'll do anything to get there.
Yeah. So I want to back up and talk a minute about the phrase "good old boy" and the assumption, because we read some of the comments that people, and you got barraged with comments on your wall. We read some of the comments, and people were just they were just asserting that "good old boy" means racist. They weren't offering any argumentation to explain why it meant racist to them. They were just saying it as if it was a fact. And you correctly pointed out, a lot of the testers, a lot of the models, the men modeling the clothing whose wives, or maybe they sewed them, but I think some of them, I saw their wives came in, their wives had sewed the patterns and they modeled them. They were men of color modeling your clothing. And so tell us a little bit about, does good old boy to you mean white men?
Yes. No, I'm just kidding. No.
What does it mean?
Okay. I love Waylon Jennings. I love country music. I'm not like flying a Confederate flag or anything over here, but like the good old boy, I like Dukes of Hazzard. So it's, that song, it's that culture.
It's a little rockabilly, is that right?
Yeah.
A little
bit.
Okay, but not really. It's more like old school honky tonk Western.
Yeah. Honky tonk Western. That's why it's in the Western collection. Like it's a name that it's like a guy that he cares for his family first, his country. He's God fearing probably. I mean, it's just, he's a good guy. Maybe he does some things that are slightly, crossing a line here and there, but it's nothing vicious or malicious. You know what I mean? Like it's a good old boy. I don't know. I didn't really think that much into it when I named it. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like, hey, I like this name. It fits. So that's what I did.
But to be clear, but there's no racist connotations, and it's not about race to you.
No.
I just want to make that clear, because people talk about it in those hateful comments. They talked about it as if it was a foregone conclusion that this is a racist term.
They're the ones putting that racist tag on it. They're the ones, like I don't know if you guys want cussing on here, but you can cut it out if you don't. It's like, you can be like, hey bitch, how's it going? And I'm just be like, hey Keri, you're my bitch, you're my friend. Or I can be like, you fucking bitch. Like, it depends on how you're gonna take that to yourself and how, what you want to see in it, and then again, how someone's voicing it to you. So if I name a pattern good on boy, I did not name it, hey, racist boy, like I didn't. I don't know. I didn't say anything to those people, to anybody. I went and liked some comments. That thread was crazy, and I just want to before we go way deep into this, I want to tell you both how much I appreciate you guys actually seeing that. Like, I didn't think anybody was going to see it. I thought I was digging my own hole at that point. And I told a couple of my friends, I was like, I'm going to burn this thing to the ground before I let anybody tell me what to do with my business. But thank you, because without you guys, like, there wouldn't, I don't know, I can't say for sure because it's already happened, but the support was amazing.
Well, you're welcome. We've just been interested in the different ways this manifests in different communities, and I'm sure you're aware, because in the knitting world, how they went after several different pattern makers, yarn dyers, and your example, I think of it as a case study. Your case study, I know you're a person and you're a living, breathing human, and you were just making the best decision you could. But yeah, you were a great case study because, like, well, what you just said, you were like, I'm going to burn this to the ground before I change my business for you people. I like that you, took the time to think about it. And you said, I'm going to go think about what you said. And then when you didn't come back with the response that they wanted, they were outraged, and they were like, but she said she was going to think about it. Yeah, that means think about it. That doesn't mean that come back from those thoughts and automatically agree with you, but that's what they want. They don't want you to actually think and reason through what you want to do. They want you just to immediately kowtow. And you came back, you thought about it, you took your time, and then you said, you know what? I don't think there's any truth to what you guys are saying about the name, and that's not what it means to me, and I'm going to continue to put this out. And that is so fearless. I love it. It was just a great example, because it's like, I said in the video where we talked about this a few months ago, I had just watched some clips from Braveheart, and you made me think of William Wallace. Because he was like, they're asking him, why don't you just kiss the ring and bow to the king and save your life? And he's like, because my life wouldn't mean anything if I don't have self-esteem and stand up for my freedom to do what I want and to believe what I want. And you modeled that so beautifully.
Thank you. There was a lot of drinking that week. I was. It was horrible. Like, well, okay, funny story. So this all came crashing down. I think I put I put the statement out. My husband and I went out that night, and we walked by a piano bar, and lo and behold, they're playing Miss American Pie.
Yep.
And we walk up right as they're like, and the good old boys are drinking whiskey, and I'm like, see, it's not racist. It's not racist. Like, and he's like, all right, calm down. So it's like that went on for about a month, like every time I'd hear it, because I was hearing it all the time, more than I had ever noticed. And I was like, what is wrong with these people? So it's their problem. It's not my problem. And that's what people have to remember. You guys have to remember, like, if this happens to you, it's their problem. they're the ones having the issue. It's not with what you're doing, because if in your heart you know it's not a thing, it's not a thing. I mean, that's it. And fortunately, I feel like I'm intelligent enough where if it does, my business did go under, I will just buy a new domain tomorrow, change the name, and put it all back out there again, and I will be fine, you know?
Yep. You know, while we were talking, I just, out of curiosity, I was like, well, what's the etymology of good old boy? Because, you know, sometimes they like to like resurrect stuff that used to be racist and isn't anymore. And so I looked online at dictionary.com and I looked at Merriam-Webster. Both of them have, so Merriam-Webster says, a good old boy is a usually white Southerner who conforms to the values, culture, or behavior of his peers. The dictionary.com says, a male who embodies the unsophisticated good fellowship and sometimes boisterous sociability regarded as typical of white males of small towns and rural areas of the South, or a person who belongs to a network of friends and associates with close ties of loyalty and mutual support. So I was thinking, here's the problem. The dictionaries start to change their definitions as the world becomes more woke. So I have old dictionaries with me on the shelf behind me that I sometimes use to double check to see if they've tried to change definitions. Unfortunately, good old boy wasn't in the old dictionary I looked at, but I did find something interesting. Even on dictionary.com, they admit that the origin, this was first recorded in use between 1970 and 1975, which means it's very unlikely that the origin was some sort of weird slave owner Southern thing. It's a thing from the 70s. You know, even if it refers to mostly white men, which I don't think it does. I've never heard that connotation.
So you have to think about the society as a whole, where whites are the majority in America. African Americans are what, like 13%?
I think so.
And so I'm just saying, like, so you're going to attribute to the Southern, the good old boy, it's mostly white. Well, probably because
America's mostly white.
They've got other stuff.
Right. But it doesn't, even if it were true that it was a term just used for white Southerners, which I don't necessarily believe this dictionary.com.
It's not.
Definition. Even if it were true, it's not racial.
It's not.
Right. No, I agree with you, Keri. I don't think it was either. But even if it were true, that doesn't make it racist, right? If it were a descriptor, like if you were to sell a kimono and say like, this is the kimono collection, like, well, yeah, that relates to Japanese people, but it doesn't mean it's racist against everyone else. It's just about a certain culture. So even if they were right about the origin, which I don't think they are, it still wouldn't be racist. I guess I wanted to make that point.
Thank you. That's a good point.
Well, I'll say anecdotally and colloquially, the fact that you had, well, first of all, in my personal life, I know a lot of good old boys. I'm from South Carolina. I live in Texas now. I can count on, like, if I just start thinking of them, it's like, yeah, there are men of color in that group. My plumber is a good old boy. He's not white, and he's one of the goodest and the oldest of the goodest and old boy. Like, he's just, you know, like for me, if I were to define it, it's just like you said, it's sort of it's the guy who's like beer drinking, drives a pickup. For me, it's more about like a style of clothing and attitude. He doesn't take crap from anybody. He might say things that are uncouth, but he means well, and he's the kind of guy who'll stop his truck and get out and help you fix a tire, and you know, he knows how to use his hands, and he's probably a working class profession.
Right, toxic masculinity.
You're right.
He's the male from Gracie's book in the town that Gracie wrote about. That's what he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a good old boy. You know.
Yeah, our friend Gracie West.
You know.
Yeah, our friend Gracie West has a book that's out, and she writes about some good old boys. But it's not, for me, it hasn't ever had racial connotation. And so I agreed with you, and I saw your point of view, and I was like, a lot of the people who seem to ascribe that to it were people who also ascribed a lot of negative stereotypes just to the people who use the term anyway. They were saying stuff about, you know, drink your Budweisers and chew your back up your America. And I'm like, you guys are you all Northerners? Like, this is like, you don't know any good boys anyway.
I am from Illinois. I come from the land of Lincoln. I'm Northern Illinois. I'm not Southern born and raised. I live where I live now because we moved here, but I am a Midwestern girl. Like, so I'm not like this crazy racist Southern chick running around naming things racist. So, you know.
If you'll notice something about the social justice left is they have a particular hatred for basically what they view as like lower class white society, especially Southern whites. They really hate them, and that's why they have all of that. They like everything is mocking. You saw, remember the other day, was it a couple weeks ago? CNN had a whole thing where someone, one of their guests jumped into a Southern accent to try and when they were trying to act like this is what dumb people sound like. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So this is how they view the South generally, which is, we should point out, that's racism.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And, I had several of my admins and people like totally left and bailed on me. I had all the vendors and stuff because I had a month-long giveaway thing going on. They all bailed. They all took off. And someone's like, well, how would you like it if someone called you a redneck or a hillbilly? Well, I'd be like, okay, I don't care because it means to me something different than what you're doing. You're being mean and calling names thinking it's going to offend me, but it does not.
Right.
So, don't know where I was going with that one.
Well, maybe we can quickly talk about, so you mentioned earlier that the fact that your models were volunteers, like they volunteered to do this, mattered. Can you talk about why it mattered? Because the mob didn't stop at complaining about the names of things. They then went after your choice of model? I'm not sure. Yes,
so my testers are all volunteers. They don't get paid. I do prizes and stuff, and I give them little like things for participating, but they don't get a paycheck. I'm not bribing people to do this. And so the testers, they have the choice to submit modeled pictures that I can choose to use on the website or for whatever promotional thing. It's not a mandatory thing at all. I think two of the guys, I didn't even know. I wasn't even paying attention. I was just picking the ones that looked the best and showcased the pattern the best. And I put them on the cover of the website for the pattern. And that was well over a year before all this even happened. And so after the outrage took place, people started picking on me saying, hey, you went and changed it and you put black people, you are tokenizing these people, you put them on the cover after this.
So they think they think the cover came after their criticism, but it came a year before.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the wives of one of the guys on the cover, she's amazing woman. She's Asian, and she came into the chat and she was like, no, my husband's been on there since the beginning. Like this, she didn't change this. Jennifer's not racist. She's amazing. I am, but so she's been a big defender, and I appreciate her very much. But yeah, so these guys were on there since the beginning, and they were being picked on for being on the cover, I guess.
And they were arguing that you were tokenizing them to try and appease the angry mob.
Yes.
Which is crazy because I want to point out something they do. If you had not had men of color as models for over a year before this happened, they would have pointed to the fact that if your models had been all white, they would have said, look, see, all the models are white. But they couldn't do that. And so then what did they do? Then they say, oh, well, they're men of color, but they're tokens. Like they're always going to find a way to. It doesn't matter what you do, and this is why I think your strategy was the best strategy, or your decision was the best decision in how to deal with one of these attacks, was just to be true to yourself and to continue what you were doing, because when you try to appease them, it doesn't matter anyway. We saw in the knitting SJW wars recently a post where they were calling out the knitters who had capitulated, who had apologized and bowed to the mob, and they said, we see that you're using models of color now as tokens. And they said, we don't want this is a new SJW phrase, performative allyship. We don't want your performative allyship. That's not enough. And so, if you try and change, and if you try and apologize, they just own you. You're going to keep apologizing. Nothing you do is going to make them happy. And the fact that you didn't change, you already had models of color. You weren't tokenizing people. These are people who volunteered. Must have driven them crazy. I saw in the comments, you mentioned the wife of one of the models. She was in there saying, like you said, I saw she was like, I know Jennifer, she's not racist. My husband and I love her patterns. We're not white people. and then it was amazing to watch the white women, because it's mostly white women who preach this ideology. It's not entirely, but a lot of the SJWs online who make the biggest noise are white women. For some reason, it was amazing to watch white women then try and tell her how this was racist towards people of color like herself, and she should be offended. They're telling her what she should be experiencing and feeling. It goes right over their head that you're in here as a white person telling people of color, that pretending to speak on behalf of an entire racial group, one that you don't even belong to, and then telling individuals who are part of these different racial groups you don't belong to what their opinion should be about it. That's incredible to me. I have a question. I just want to make that point for anyone watching. It's like that you will see that over and over. But I do have a question. It's not related to that. I have a question that I want to make sure we get to. So what? 3 months later, what has been the overall fallout from all of this? Where are you now? Was it the right? Do you think you made the right decision?
Absolutely.
Okay. How was your business affected? Did you gain followers? Did you lose people?
So at the beginning of November, I was my Facebook page has around 3,000 people, and I'm not very active on the actual page. It's more my group. I find people are more active in groups because it's not like on their wall and their friends don't have to see their junk, in the group. So my group had just over 9,000 when this started, and I was projecting at the end of November, because of the giveaways and the things. We were giving away a Surger, which is almost a $200 machine. Like there was like a lot of good prizes that we would hit about 10,000. So it was my 2-year and 10K celebration. So this all went down. I was at about 94 or 9,400. And I think I lost, the number went down. By the end of the month, I was at around 9,200. I mean, I definitely lost a bunch, but I gained just as many as I lost. And I attribute that to your show probably, or, just normal people that saw what was going on. So, and now I'm over 10,000 at this point. Like I've got almost 11,000 in my group. And those people that join groups like that, they are customers. You're not going to join a group unless you're interested in what it is, So that's where I base it. I feel like everything's okay. It was very hard. November was a very, very hard month. Like I said, there was some drinking going on. It was hard to get through. But you get through it. You get through it. And there was a lot of, I banned a lot of people just so I didn't have to hear them or see them anymore. So I had a tip. If this happens, and I don't know how it works with Instagram very much because I'm not really active on there as much. But on Facebook, I'll throw stuff out in a group, and then it gets, like bait. Well, not like bait. I'm actually advertising. But then you get somebody will say something, and then you'll see a bunch of likes on their stupid comment. So then you just go and you find these people because you can see who liked it. You go down the list. You're like, okay, goodbye. In my world now, I think I've banned about 80 people. And it's not that much. I don't see any of that nonsense anymore. So my world is quieter, it's better, it's healthier, and the crazies are gone. Hopefully.
So would you recommend like another business that was that had a similar issue happen to them? Would you say what would your advice be now if you could go back to early November or October and talk to yourself? What would you say?
Oh gosh, I would say I wouldn't change anything. I don't. Adversity it builds character. Okay, people are yelling at me, white privilege, white privilege. I will tell them there is no white privilege in my life. Like I did not go to college. I barely graduated high school by mail. Like I didn't even go through high school. Nobody gave me a thing. I've never had a white privilege event. I don't even know what that is. So, I've grown, and it builds character. It gives you strength. So, I mean, even with the junk that's in my past that I carry on my baggage, like I wouldn't change any of that either. You know, like people have horrific events in their life, and they want to blame that until they're adults, and they want to keep crying about it. But put on a pair of big girl pants and just deal with it, because seriously, it only helps you. And some things, like I'm not going to get into on the show, but they were horrific, and they do change your life, and they do build character. So again, even though it was terrible going through it, I would not change a thing.
So you would recommend that people push back, don't apologize, and just
yes, that's what you're going to do for this type of situation.
Okay. Wait the storm out.
I just wanted to jump in and say, you said big girl pants, and I'm righteously offended. I don't know. Maybe that should be one of your new patterns.
I could do a lingerie, like big girl pants. Oh, that's terrible. No.
So what are you working on now? What's coming out? What's new for Lil Ragamuffin?
So I do have a collection called the Hellcat collection, and I had 2 patterns come out last year, and I'm working on a new one that should be out about a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. It's a wrap dress. It's super cute. I have a kid's version of it. It's my first kid Hellcat, which we're going to name. It's Little Spitfire. So.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you. I do appreciate naming things. Like, it takes me a while to name something. So that was the other thing. When they started coming after me for my names, I was like, you people need to shut up. Like, I love my names,
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure this is racist. I'm looking at your Hellcat bundle now, and there's got to be something racist about it. I just haven't figured out what it is yet. So
I don't know. Maybe because it's from 40s, 50s, 60s style.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing it out. Yes, you're a Nazi. Thank you.
Have it. And they've said that about me too. They're like, "Oh, vintage doesn't have to be racist. There's plenty of good." Oh, come on, people. Like, it's one thing I want to say, and I was thinking about this the other day. I'm not the only person in the sewing community that this has happened to. There's fabric designers and all kinds of people. They'll put something out and they don't like it and whatever. You guys with the knitting community, I think a lot of this stuff is happening in artistic communities, because artistic communities are more free thinking and are more open to creativity. And I believe that the SJWs, which I learned from you guys, I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what are they talking about? What is that? Anyway, so the creative people, they want to not have creative people. They just want drones. They don't want anybody coming up with anything on their own. So I think a lot of the stuff, which is why they take art, they take all these things out of schools. There's very little creativity left. They put people on Ritalin, so they don't have like all the thoughts,
That's an interesting point. I hadn't really thought of it that way, that they don't want the critical thought, and the creative thinking is actually a threat to them. And as Keri and I have talked about, one of the most visceral ways to put an idea out in culture is through some sort of art, right? It's through something that speaks to people, that bypasses their conscious mind and goes directly to how they feel about something emotionally. And so I guess clothing patterns that have some sort of positive association with something that they don't like, maybe, or that there's just some positive association with something they don't like, maybe need to get shut down, and they don't want people starting to ask questions about anything. I think you're right, they just want drones. Certainly that's what public schools are turning out. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm a proud
They've been going after, what'd you say?
I said I'm a proud homeschooling mom, so there you have it. Yeah,
we had a conversation about that beforehand, and I didn't know if you wanted to share it, but you just did. So thank you for being a homeschooling mom, by the way. I think homeschooling is absolutely
important.
The best thing to do.
Especially, I've already said I'm in Vegas. The schools here, I think we're at like 40, 48 or something our schools are the worst.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, I'm in California. We're pretty bad. So I don't know who's worse, but yeah.
I just wanted to comment on what you said, Jennifer, about what you're both talking about artistic communities. There is a lot of truth to that. We've seen it also, and we're going to be doing an interview soon with a poet who was at the end of one of these mobs. They do go after art, and I think you're right, Carter. And we talk about it's because art is a very effective way, whether it's comedy or poetry or music or pattern names, it is a very effective way to bring people joy. And these people are not joyful. This ideology is about resentment. It sucks joy from you. And so when they see joy, I think there's something automatic in them that makes them want to go attack it. And the other thing about art is that, you can get across some important ideas within the context of art, and this isn't a belief system about new ideas. It's not a belief system about critical thought. They have to stamp that out. Artists are very effective at changing culture, at illuminating truths, and so they go after gaming, they go after young adult fiction, they go after the fiber community, knitting, sewing, poetry, music, because artists they're almost like I don't know if have you read the War of Art?
No.
It's a play on the book The Art of War, but the War of Art, I think it's Pressfield is his name. And he talks about artists sort of being, when they're channeling something that's greater than themselves, you're a channel of something. And I'm getting a little hippy dippy here and spiritual or whatever. But I think really good art, it's like, I don't know if it's like this with writing. I don't know if it's like this with coming up with patterns and sewing or naming things. But when it's right, it's like it's not even you doing it. You just, this inspiration comes and this stuff pours out of you. And they can't. There's like a truth to that. This ideology is against truth and joy and everything that is good. I'll put it that way.
One thing. Go ahead.
Oh, I said it's anti-fun. Just it's anti, happy.
Yeah, and
yes.
I was going to say one thing to notice though is, you can tell which art they're going to dislike the most based on who it makes happy. So they are against art that makes the people that they hate, because they're racist. Remember that these people are racists. So if the art is appreciated by a particular demographic that they despise, that's why they'll go after the art, because the art can't be argued against. You can't convince someone to not enjoy something. You can maybe use sophistry to convince someone to not believe something if they're not good critical thinkers. But you can't argue with someone and say, like, you didn't find that joke funny. You don't like that video game. This pattern is ugly to you. Like, you can't convince someone of those things. They're visceral things. And so what they do, if you look at who they've gone after, not always, but often they're attacking things that are liked by communities of people that they hate. And Gamergate is a great one. It was, a bunch of young, mainly white males that enjoy video games. And not just white males, but young men. Men are are toxic and horrible, so they had to go after gamers. They don't like your good old boy Western stuff because people who aren't in the woke crowd like that stuff. It resonates with them. And so they're just looking at the demographics saying the people we hate like this, therefore, and we can't convince them not to like it because it's visceral. So we have to we can't censor the art, but we can censor the artist. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you see it all over, like the David Chappelle, or like even Maria Tuscan and her new knits that she put out, her new fabric. I'm going sewing community here, fabrics. So anyway, her new line of stuff that she put out, and I saw that. I went through her thread, and I told somebody that it was art, and they said, no, this is not art. And I'm like, okay, well, it is. So, I mean,
right.
It's crazy. It's all crazy. And that was, so I said that too. I put one of my, she's so crazy. Or look at all the low prices. It was one of my ads. So then they were attacking me because I was anti, mental illness or something because I used the word crazy.
Do you remember, I don't know, Keri, do you remember Crazy Eddie? Does anyone remember Crazy Eddie?
That's how the ad was written. It was written like, how, so many options with this pattern and it's so cheap or whatever. How crazy.
They're insane. Yeah.
The prices are insane. Oh yeah. They would have a big problem with that. Well, the list of words and things you're not allowed to say grows ever more long. Like it just keeps getting longer because they have to control language. If you control language, you can control thought, and if you can control thought, you can control people. And so they're very concerned with words that you can and can't say. That's why Maria's yarn names bothered them so much, because she used all these magic words that they use, and she made fun of the magic words, and that's a huge no-no. You don't mock the magic words, and so that's very okay. So I bought one of your good old boy patterns, as you know, because I didn't find it in my inbox. Anyway, thank you for resending it, and I'm not a sewer. I have a sewing machine. I've tried to, just like with knitting, I had my little phase where I was trying to sew things, but I wasn't very good. So one of my goals for 2020 is I want to make one of your good old boy Western wear shirts for my fella. And I think
I sent you because you're like, where's my pattern? And I was like, it's in your email. And you thought it was mailed. It's not a paper pattern. Just so these are not traditional paper patterns. They are PDFs that you download.
I'm so old school. I thought I was going to get one of those brown paper patterns.
I mean, it's been around for maybe like 10 years, I guess. I don't know, but it's not everybody knows about it. However, I did send you the Outlaw Lady, which is a dress or shirt, so you can make one for yourself. So it's a matchy-match type thing.
Awesome. Hey, I want to give you a slogan if you ever do T-shirts or buttons. You mentioned Waylon Jennings earlier when I asked you to define good old boy. And Carter, I'm going to call you out, Carter. We had an episode where, I can't remember. He's like, what are you about to say?
Be careful.
My fellow and I we were talking about Willie and Waylon. We came up with this phrase. Now, I say we came up with it. It's one of those phrases that maybe somebody else has come up with too, because it just lends itself.
No, just own it. You did it.
Yeah, but we should have shirts that say, where there's a Willie, there's a Waylon. Isn't that good?
That is good.
And when I said it to Carter, he goes, yeah, like a T-shirt or a button. Yeah. And when I said it to Carter, he goes, I don't get it. And I said, where there's a will, there's a way. And he goes, no, I get that. Who's Waylon?
Right.
Carter.
And who's Willie?
Now oh my gosh. I'm just connecting you guys right now. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not a country music fan.
You know what though? You don't have to be a country music fan to appreciate what they've done for music in general. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, that's another show.
I might have to be though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where there's a Willie, there's a Waylon.
Where there's a Willie, there's a Waylon. I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's tell people where they can follow you one more time. I've got to run to where. Oh, I'm sorry, Carter. You go.
No, I was just gonna say I will figure out some good counter arguments to selling that shirt later, off air.
Well, okay. So real quick, Willie and Waylon and that whole group of guys, Johnny Cash, they were very liberal, very liberal. So I wanted to say that too, if it got brought up, because my love for the music is not racist. They were not racist. And the time that they came from was one of the least racist, even though people say it was more racist. I feel like we hit a point in our culture where there was almost probably no racism, and then we've kind of went backwards over the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's kind of reverted because of all this SJW stuff and everything else. So these guys were, one of Waylon's songs is "Whatever Gets You Through the Night." Like, nobody cares what you're doing. If you're having fun, nobody cares. Just have fun. You want to do this or that, it doesn't matter. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, I agree. I think that we were progressing. So the ideals, like speaking of Western, and I don't mean Western now. I don't mean Western as in country Western. I just mean Western. Western ideals of like individuality, personal freedom, personal liberty. Mm-hmm. We were on a path to eradicating a lot of different forms of tribalism, racism, sexism, those things. And then this ideology kind of took root. I know it started many decades ago, but at least in how I've seen it manifest, 20 years ago is when I was indoctrinated into it. And back then it wasn't a very mainstream thing. It was just in academia. That's where I was learning. It was in college. But it's progressed in the past 20 years to the point where I think you're right. We've started regressing. We've started becoming a more racist society. We've started becoming a more tribalistic society because of this belief system. And that period of time you're talking about with Outlaw Country, with the Highwaymen, Willie and Waylon, it's like that was a time of, that was when I think we were still on the progression path. It was becoming like, it was a less racist time. It was about individualism. You had the anti-war movement. You had
peace and love. I mean, it was all about being happy and promoting happiness. Now this whole thing is promoting misery and just terrible behavior. It's horrible.
Yeah, I agree.
I have nothing to add, guys. I mean, of course I agree. Yes, I mean, yeah, I agree. It was
Highwayman. Wait, what?
I'm still wrapping my head around this country music thing, but yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. It was obviously moving on a path of less racism, and academia is like Typhoid Mary, just going around spreading bad ideas in the rest of the culture.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think Keri, you have to run, right?
I do. I've got to go to work. I just want to say, on behalf of, I'm going to speak on behalf of Carter. Okay. On behalf of Unsafe Space, and we're very happy to have you here. And I'm glad that we're talking to you a few months later, because I also want people to see, what you said about how you wouldn't change a thing about it. It's like, it's not, and November was a very hard month for you. When you're in the fire, I'm sure, I haven't been in the fire like this, but I can only imagine, I'm sure that it can seem overwhelming at times. And like you said, you had to turn your phone off and step away from social media for a while. But just know that there's just if you stay true to yourself, I think there's a light at the end of that tunnel. And I'm so glad to hear that we get to hear from someone like you and hear what's happened with your business, which sounds like it's thriving. And congratulations to you, and you're an inspiration. So.
Well, thank you. It is a dark time. You do feel like the world is crashing down on you when it's happening, but the light at the end of the tunnel, it's a true thing. It happens. And as long as you, stick to your beliefs and stick to your guns, you'll get there, And we are at past 10,000 now. So the doubters out there, if they're watching, ha. I did it. I did it. And we're going to have another big giveaway. So, come and see that. It'll be amazing.
Cool. Well, congratulations, Jennifer. Thanks again for joining.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Alrighty.
And where can people follow you?
Oh, So my Facebook page is Lil Ragamuffin. My Facebook group is Ragamuffin Patterns. I'm on Instagram at Lil_Ragamuffin_. And I have a YouTube channel. Don't really do a whole lot with it, but it's there. It's Lil Ragamuffin.
Cool.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If it's your first time watching Deprogrammed, hit like, subscribe if you want to share the episode, and you guys can visit us online at unsafespace.com.
Oh, wait, I forgot something. So I put a coupon code up for you guys, and it's Carter and Keri Kick Ass. So it's 50% off any one pattern. Anybody wants one, 50% off pattern. Carter N with an N, Keri Kick Ass.
I'm flattered. Thank you.
That's awesome. Carter, you need to make some big girl pants.
I don't have that.
All right. Thank you again, Jennifer. Really appreciate it. Good to chat with you.
Nice to see you guys.
One final note. After we recorded this episode with Jennifer, she sent me an email with a couple points she wished she had made during the show. I'm going to read those points to you now. 1. The ones making all these accusations about me had never ever bought a single thing from me. I looked them up in my customer database and there are 0 orders from them. So this group of individuals are not customers. People need to know that. They do not buy anything. They just go around causing trouble. And her second point was, Facebook banned me for 4 weeks during all of this for going against their community standards. All the nasty stuff said about me, written on Facebook, and I never said anything back. This group would report my ads in sewing groups as racist content. After 2 reports, you get banned. On top of it, there is no way to fight it, and no way to talk to anyone at Facebook about it. You just have to wait until the ban is lifted. Once it is lifted, and they saw I was active again, they reported me again. This put the ban on one more time, but for twice as long. This happened a 3rd time, all in a single month period. So those were the extra points Jennifer wanted to make. I hope you enjoyed watching the show. We'll see you next time.